of August 20th, 2020. I want to make a notion that we are still conducting the school committee meetings pursuant to the executive order dated March 20th, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. I'm formally going to call the meeting to order. And the first thing I want to do is approve the August 2020 agenda. Does anybody have any edits or additions that they'd like to make? Okay. Before I start, I do want to note that Citizen Speak is number 6 on our agenda tonight. I am going to say, I'll repeat it at the time that it comes, but due to the jam-packed agenda and the many issues that we have to address, and that we also have a lengthy executive session tonight, I am going to stop Citizen Speak at 30 minutes, at the 30-minute mark, no matter what, no matter how many people are left to speak. As I've stated recently, it is our tradition that we usually have 15 minutes of Citizen Speak at the beginning and 15 minutes of Citizen Speak at the end of the meeting. And we have been condensing that to one time slot in the agenda of 30 minutes. At the past couple of meetings, I've made a motion to extend it to 40. And due to the issues and the sensitivities that have been having dealt with in our community, I have let that extend, but they are going to an hour and a half, in some cases 2 hours. And we have too much to cover to allow that much time for Citizen Speak. So again, it will only be 30 minutes. I'll ask that you start raising your hand at the time that Citizen Speak starts, not before that time. Again, it is item 6 on our agenda. And I ask that everyone who does speak, try to keep it to 3 minutes as we state usually, so that as many people can get in. If you are not able to make it within the 30-minute time zone, I strongly encourage you to email your statement to the entire school committee. We read everything. So your concerns, thoughts, statements, will be looked at and addressed and heard if you email it to us. If not, then we encourage you to come to Citizen Speak at our next meeting, which will be September 9th. And the last thing I'm going to say about Citizen Speak before we start, I ask that for those of you that do get to speak tonight within the 30-minute time zone, speak from a place of respect and kindness for the committee and the administration who are present. Thank you for that. Okay, moving on. I'm going to the chair's report, item number 3. The first item on our chair's report is the acceptance of Mary Gormley's letter of resignation for the purpose of retirement. Many of you in the community who may be watching know that last Friday, August 20th, Superintendent Mary Gormley resigned from her position for the purpose of retirement. I'm going to read the formal letter that she wrote to the school committee. Dear Chairperson Varela, after completing 46 years of service to the town of Milton as a teacher, principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent of schools, I respectfully submit my resignation for the purpose of retirement, effective Monday, August 24th, 2020. A family emergency requires my full attention, and that is why I am making this decision at this time. Working with you and all the dedicated members of the Milton School Committee, current and past, our talented central office leadership team, principals, teachers, staff, family, town officials, and most especially our amazing students, has been a privilege. I am grateful for your support and all you do to make our schools outstanding. Each of you has earned my deepest respect and admiration. With the leadership of countless individuals and groups, Milton Public Schools has achieved many noteworthy accomplishments. They built a gifted and talented administrative, teaching, and support staff, second to none in the Commonwealth. Offer enriching programs, courses, and opportunities in music, art, drama, theater, debate, future problem solving, world language, math, science, STEM, English language arts, social studies, technology, physical education, and health. Sponsor robust athletic and extracurricular and co-curricular programs. Develop social and emotional programming. Increase the number of students admitted to colleges and universities. Created the Milton Foundation for Education, which enhances and enriches programming and curriculum. Created and developed an integrated pre-K school and a continuum of special education services for students pre-K, through postgraduate education. Built a highly enrolled community schools program, implemented free district-wide full-day kindergarten, expanded advanced placement courses, provided all new or like new state-of-the-art school buildings with architectural, curriculum, technology, and equipment enhancements. Implemented a one-to-one device program for all students K-8 and bring your own device for students grades 9 through 12. I am proud to have been the superintendent of a school system where administrators, teachers, and support staff work collaboratively with parents, guardians, and community members to enrich the educational experiences for each of our pre-K through grade 12 students. I extend my heartfelt thanks to the entire Milton community for allowing me this opportunity and for the amazing experience it has been to serve as Milton's Superintendent of Schools. Sincerely, Mary Gormley. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion that we formally accept Mary Gormley's letter of resignation for the purpose of retirement. Can I have a second? Okay, at this time, I'm going to go around and if anyone would like to say anything before we formally take the vote. Member Eberhard?
Thank you. What to say? Well, I just would like to thank Mary Gormley for her 46 years of leadership in the town. I knew Mary for 21 years, first as a parent, then as a volunteer, and then as a school committee member. And I always admired the fact that Mary showed up every day. She showed up to work. She showed up to support teachers, to support families, to support students. In her heart, she was a teacher, and she recognized the talent in so many people, and she encouraged them to pursue their goals and their dreams. She mentored so many principals, so many superintendents. She saw talent in parents, and she encouraged them to pursue their goals and gave them opportunities as well. I know the last few months have been extremely challenging for our town and for our community, but she faced every challenge head on, accepted responsibility for things, worked to make them better. And we are a better community for those 46 years that she worked for us and gave her life to us. From my heart to hers, I say thank you. And I wish her time enough in her retirement for the things she needs to do to feel complete and whole for her family. And I will miss her terribly.
Thanks, Margaret. Member White? Oh, Betty, you have to unmute, sorry. Yeah.
I was just saying, I can't remember a time when I didn't know Mary Gormley. It's been so long. And when I think of the Milton Public Schools, I think of Mary Gormley. And when I think of Mary Gormley, I think of the Milton Public Schools. She's been the heart and soul of the school system. She's so devoted to this organization. And one of the things that always touches me about her is how proud she is of the accomplishments of the students and the faculty. She's hired and nurtured so many talented people on the staff. And every time I had an opportunity to sit on a search committee or a subcommittee as a school committee member and met with so many of the staff, I was always so impressed with them. Most recently on the task force for the return to school. And I'd always comment to Mary about what a talented group of people and how impressive they were. And she was so proud of the Milton Public Schools, and she remains proud. I will miss her smile. I will miss her enthusiasm and her emails, because we haven't, I don't think people understand how many emails we get from Mary every day, and she just loves to let us know what's going on. So thank you, Mary, for your dedication and devotion.
Thanks, Betty. Member Rosemarin?
Yes, thank you. I've also had the privilege to work with Mary Gormley for decades, from building, rebuilding all 6 schools, to instituting free full-day kindergarten, to advising her through the Return to School Task Force most recently. Mary is a lifetime educator with an open heart and mind who wants nothing but the best for all of Milton's school children. She's been a strong leader with a passion for education. Mary's faced many challenges over the years and has led us through those times. This year's challenges are greater than most: a global pandemic and a much-needed move toward racial justice. Mary has led us well through these challenges, but her family needs her now. Mary has left a lasting legacy that will always be cherished. My family sends our love and best wishes to Mary and the entire Gormley family.
Thanks, Ada. Dr. Donahue?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure I've had the time to process the retirement of Superintendent Gormley. She was a force of nature and an institutional bastion of the Milton Public Schools. Her absence will be felt far and wide. When I was trying to think about what to say tonight, I kept coming back to how selfless Mary gave of herself to the Milton Public Schools and the town of Milton. Almost 50 years of dedicated service to almost 3 generations of students. To touch so many lives so deeply is such a gift to the community. And now, like the giving tree, she continues to give, but this time to her family. Mary, we'll miss you. Your wit, your determination, and your kindness. Take care, and God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Donahue. Dr. Craighead?
Thank you, Chair Varela. I learned a lot from Mary in the short time that we knew each other. I met Mary when I became a school committee member about 4.5 years ago. But in that short time, I learned so much from her. She set an example for everyone around her in the fact that she was always working the hardest of anybody, and yet she recognized constantly the work of those employees of the Milton Public School system. She was always making sure that we all knew what was happening sort of behind the scenes and who was responsible for bringing projects to fruition. And yet, every time I heard from Mary, it seemed that it was off hours. It was either 6 o'clock in the morning, or it was 10 o'clock at night, or it was a Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. when the rest of us were hanging around watching football. She was at work, trying to make sure that the Milton Public Schools were running smoothly. I learned a lot about leadership from Mary. She was able to bring stakeholders together and make things work, even when I had doubts, but she always said, it's going to work, it's going to be okay, and she was almost always right. She made people feel special. And she made you feel like, when you were talking to her, that she didn't have 500 other things that she was responsible for going on behind the scenes, which she always did. But she made you feel like she really cared about you and what you were talking about in that moment. That ability to be present is a sign of an amazing leader, an amazing person, a very special person. She remembered everything. She remembered what I told her I was going to do on the weekend and would ask me about it on Monday, even while things might be exploding around us. In fact, in the brief conversation that we had on Friday, when she announced her retirement, even though the circumstances were very serious, she made sure to ask me about my family and how they were doing, and asked very specific questions to show me that she was very well aware of what was going on with my family. The way that she treated everyone, and I mean everyone, from presidents and CEOs to town officials to those elected and not, to parents, faculty, staff, administrators, and especially the students, she treated everyone with respect, every single person, with grace, respect, humor, and that's the sign of the very best kind of leader. And I'm surely going to miss her. I said to her last week in a meeting that I missed sitting down and talking to her. And in our brief phone call on Friday, she mentioned that to me, and she said, "You have no idea what that meant to me when you said it." And so I was glad that I took the time to just say something to her about how disconnected we all feel when we're used to being up at Central and being able to talk in person. I will miss Mary Gormley very, very much. I will miss her presence, but I do want to recognize how much I've learned from her in a very short time. Thank you, Mary. Godspeed.
Thank you, Dr. Craighead. For me, when I was thinking about this, all I could say is that it's really been it hasn't even been a week since Mary Gormley let me know about her decision. And to say I was a bit shocked was an understatement, because if there's one word I would use to describe Mary, it's dedication. I don't think I've ever seen someone who's been so dedicated to these schools. Over the course of my time in the school committee, and as well as being a school parent who's been politically engaged in this town since my children were toddlers, and they're now 17 and 20, I've seen that Mary Gormley has always put the Milton Public Schools first, as a teacher, as a principal, as an administrator, and a superintendent. And her impact on the education and the future of thousands of students in this town will be long-lasting. In these last few years, for me, it has been special because I have had the privilege and honor to work closely with Mary. I just want to say I have this side story that when I attended conferences for the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and we would have, breaks during the day, coffee, lunch, whatever, and you would meet fellow school committee members from all of the districts over the Commonwealth. They would say to me sometimes, "So how's your relationship with the superintendent? Does she talk to you other than at school committee meetings?" And I said, talk to us. I said, other than my husband or my kids. The person I talk to is, at least once a day, if not 3 or 4. So that just shows you that Mary, as a superintendent, I was shocked to learn that some superintendents don't operate that way. And she has always had an excellent relationship with her school committees, past and present. She cared for the Milton Public Schools. She cared for the process of the school committee, and it showed. I wish her peace and comfort during this difficult time for her family. But as I've said previously many times, our district is a great district. We have trying times ahead, but we are still a great district. And we will get through this because Mary Gormley has set the standard for leadership. We were blessed to have her give her heart and soul to these Milton Public Schools for almost 50 years. And the community of Milton thanks her from the bottom of our hearts. God bless you, Mary. You will be missed. Okay, so did I make a motion to accept it? Okay, so and there's been a second. So I've made the motion to accept the letter of resignation for the purpose of retirement. I have it seconded. Because it is an important roll call, I am going to, of important vote, I'm going to go through the roll call. So Member Eberhardt,
Yes.
Member White,
Yes.
Member Rosemarin,
Yes.
Member Dr. Craighead,
Yes.
Dr. Donahue,
Yes.
Member Varela, yes. Okay. Item B, superintendent search. Okay. Okay. So once I finished meeting with Mary Gormley last Friday morning, the first thing I did was reach out to our Milton Public School lawyer and ask for legal advice with regard to the next steps that we would be taking regarding the superintendent's position. I immediately knew that due to the timing of Superintendent Gormley's sudden retirement, we would need to put in an interim superintendent in place as soon as possible. I feel there is an urgency to filling this position due to the vast challenges that our district is facing, from critical return to school plan to our continued commitment for a learning environment that is equitable and anti-racist. I asked our attorney how we could swiftly and legally take next steps. He informed me that the only discussion we could have for recommendations for the appointment would be in an open meeting setting. With all of us together, we would have to be an open meeting, as is tonight at the school committee, at the August 26th school committee meeting. He then instructed me that as chair, I could contact each member of the committee one-on-one, which I did via phone, and explain the open meeting stipulation of the process, that the only time that we could all be together to discuss who we thought would possibly be a good candidate for an interim would be in the open meeting setting. He also informed me that I could ask each member at that time to think about who they might want to put forward to recommend for the interim position. And that between the time I spoke to them, most of them I called on Friday and Saturday, till tonight's meeting, they could contact that person and see if they would even be interested. Because I had said to them that if their recommended person wouldn't even be interested in the job, we're not putting forward a name to discuss because of time sensitivity. If they found out that the person would be interested, that they should be ready to bring that person's name to be put forth for recommendation and discussion at tonight's meeting. They could also ask that person to be ready to call into the meeting if the committee could possibly reach a consensus and make a recommendation at this August 26th meeting. I also stated at each conversation that I had with each member that once we had an interim superintendent put in place for the 2020-21 school year, we could then put a plan in place for the position of a permanent superintendent for the 2021-2022 school year. So in my discussions, Member Eberhardt graciously volunteered to me to say that she would like to lead that process for our committee for the permanent superintendent, which would be put in place in 2021-2022. So before we go back to talk about the interim, I'm going to briefly ask Member Eberhardt to just give an overview to the viewing public of what that might entail.
Thank you, Chair Varela. So this is a big decision. As we've discussed multiple times at recent meetings, school committees have basically three responsibilities. We oversee the budget with the superintendents, we work on policy, and we hire and evaluate the superintendent. So I reached out to the Massachusetts Association for School Committees for them to act as a resource for us as we move forward in this process. There are several different avenues that school committees can take when looking to hire a new superintendent. And I'm going to work with our field rep to explore those options and then bring them to the school committee to discuss at an open meeting with the community, and then choose the best process to move forward. School districts have a wide range of ways that they do it. Sometimes they hire outside firms to help them. Sometimes they work in-house. And we will come to the best process to support our community to make the decision that involves the most voices and builds consensus and moves us forward to the future. So I will probably bring that to us towards the end of our September meetings, as I know the beginning meetings in September and the first few weeks will really be focused on supporting a new interim superintendent and also on the return to school initiatives that we are undertaking. So I want to thank everyone some people have reached out to us with some kind words of encouragement and thought, and I really appreciate all that, and we look forward to the conversation as we move forward.
Thank you so much, Member Eberhardt. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the discussion of interim superintendent. And as chair, I am going to start the process. So I would like to put forth for discussion the possibility of appointing Principal James Jett to the position of interim superintendent of Milton Public Schools for the 2020-21 school year. And my reasonings are as follows. He's been a part of the Milton Public Schools since 1997, having served in several positions from guidance counselor, director of the summer enrichment program, Title I summer program, supervisor, director of transportation, assistant principal at the Pierce Middle School, principal at the Pierce, and in his current position of high school principal. Mr. Jett is an excellent communicator. I have seen this up front ever since my oldest child started Pierce Middle School 8 years ago. As a middle school parent and then as a high school parent, James has always taken the time to clearly express his decision-making process on issues facing his school community to both parents, guardians, and students. He's been a proven leader in promoting modern classroom technology and employing data-driven performance. He led the Milton High School community in becoming the first school in the district to implement a successful one-to-one device program. He has been a leader in promoting cultural competency and social emotional learning. He coordinates the Minority Educators Job Fair, and his management of the Calculus Project has helped increase the number and diversity of students taking AP courses and led to improved overall advanced placement scores. James is also a strong consensus builder. He always thinks of the students first and works tirelessly to deliver for their needs. The high school is a crown jewel of our system, and it is because James has the unique ability to unite students, teachers, administrators, parents, and guardians to achieve an outcome of success. And he does it with real compassion and empathy, even exhibiting joy when he created a new adaptation for the high school graduation during our pandemic. His planning and execution of the Milton High School graduation was first rate, even in a time of such uncertainty for our town. As you know, at first, many parents and guardians and students were strongly adverse to his alternative plan, yet it ended up being one of the most successful graduations in the history of MPS. Even in times of despair and doubt, he gave us hope. The last example brings me to one of my final points on my recommendation. I believe that James Jett is a strong and brave leader. Having worked with him over the years, I have seen it firsthand. The graduation is just one example, one recent example. He is someone who is not afraid to lead in times of hardship. And we, our town, are dealing with hardship, both with health and with race. James's words earlier this spring when he spoke at a town-wide vigil following the death of George Floyd inspired us all. He spoke from the heart with passion and conviction. That is real leadership. I feel that with James's vast institutional knowledge of the Milton Public School already put in place, and with the grave challenges ahead of us for the 2020-21 school year, James Jett is a leader who will hit the ground running. So I'd like to open it up for discussion amongst my committee members with my recommendation. I guess I'll start with Member Rosemary.
Thank you. Well, I concur with much of what Chair Varela just discussed about James's experience in the Milton Public Schools. He has been through many different positions as he's moved his way up through the district and has grown in each one. One of my early interactions with James was as a guidance counselor at Pierce for my children. And one of my children got in a fight and got suspended for a couple of days. We were called in to meet with James, with our child, and during a very trying meeting, I was so impressed with how he handled a very difficult situation for us that I went home afterwards and wrote him a thank you note, which is not something you would usually do when your child is suspended from school. But I was just so impressed with how he handled it. It really, really was. We need stability in these unstable times, and I believe James can provide us for that. And I think he's the right person to serve as the interim superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Craighead?
I'm not sure what I can really add to what Chair Varela and Member Rosemarin said. I agree with everything that they said. James his record of leadership is a record. It's there. It's proven. During the graduation situation at Milton High School, he listened to those that differed with his decision, again, with respect and with understanding of where they were coming from. This was from students, from parents, from faculty members who didn't necessarily agree with him, but he always kept the best interests of the students at the forefront and stuck to what he knew was right, and he was right. And as Chair Varela said, it was just an amazing, beautiful event. And that showed me everything about James as a leader. He is, he knows all of the stakeholders. He's held so many different positions within Milton Public Schools. I'm very confident that he can get the job done even at this very difficult time in Milton Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Eberhardt?
Thank you, Chair Varela. When you asked us to think about possible interim superintendents, we are fortunate in our community to have a wealth of qualified, capable, dedicated individuals who could serve in that role. When I think about Mr. Jett, I think about what my young men now, what boys then, would always refer to him as an in-the-hall principal, that he was the kind of principal that knew the students and knew them well and had strong relationships with them. And I always think about that when I think about Mr. Jett. And I think about him over the last few months during this time, and particularly after George Floyd, when students reach out to him, which I found to be one of the most heartening things, that students that had graduated from the institution reached out to Mr. Jett to talk to him about their feelings and their thoughts. And when he was at the rally, he spoke about the belief gap. And he's come to our school committee multiple times, and he and I have had conversations about why do we have less students of color in our advanced placement classes at the high school? Why does this continue to be a challenge for us as a community? And he refers to that as the belief gap to decrease that gap, to increase the number of students in those classes, and to make learning equitable across the board for all of our students. And I know that in the community, the Milton Anti-Racist Coalition sent us a letter about the qualities of a leader for this time, and another mom wrote about someone who could heal and lead the community through these challenging times. And I do think that Mr. Jett is that person. I think he leads from possibility and from hope, which I personally value, and I think we all do. And I think that he can handle the multifaceted complexities of our community. And I think there's a wonderful leadership team around him. He has experience in middle school and high school, not as much in elementary, but a strong elementary team to support that, to support him should he become the interim superintendent. So I thank you for that consideration and nomination, Vanessa.
Thank you. Member White.
So when I was thinking about who would be able to lead us at this time, James's name was the first one that popped into my head. And I've known James for a really long time. I've been a long time admirer of him. And I've seen him grow as a leader over the years. And I have a unique experience. He was actually my boss because I taught at the summer school program, the Summer Enrichment, when he was the director. And I used to tell, I had all these teenagers in my room because I was doing the cooking, and they all came to eat and be fed, and they also worked. But I used to say to them, Mr. Jett's going to be checking, make sure you guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that would always get them to do their work. And, one of the things that I love about James is that he is not afraid to offer his opinion, even if he disagrees with you. He's very respectful about it, but he will let you know what he's thinking. And he one time told me, and I think about this a lot, is he's not just a role model for the young Black students in the school, but he says he's a role model for everyone. And that's so true, because I think every child I know, when I asked them about Mr. Jett and when he was at the middle school and also here, all the kids have great respect for him. They speak well of him. And I think he also has the great respect of all of our staff who have worked with him. And I think people admire him as a leader. So I think he would be a wonderful choice for our school at this time.
Betty. Lastly, Dr. Donahue.
Thank you, Chair Barella. It's sort of all been said already. When you made the call to me on, I forget what day it was. I think it was Friday. The day's blurred, but immediately my thoughts went to superintendent or to Principal Jett to fill the superintendent's role. There were a lot of secondary and tertiary thoughts about what that would mean for the district and things like that. But immediately I would have to agree with you that his record of leadership is impressive, and I think it's his is a voice that we need, and there are a number of very capable administrators in the district that I think could fill this role admirably. But I have to agree with you, Chair. I think that Principal Jett's name immediately floated to the top for me as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So that's everyone. Next, I'm going to put out, I know it seems like everyone is in agreement or on the same page with what my thought was, but I still am formally going to put out, does anybody want to put any other name forth for discussion? Or are we all united on James? Looks like we are. Okay, all right, wow, okay. So this is great, So what I'm going to do then is at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to appoint James Jett as the interim superintendent for the Milton Public Schools for the 2020-21 school year. Could I have a second? Okay. We've already had discussion on it, so I'm going to make a roll call vote again, because this is an important vote. Member Eberhardt?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I froze up that. At this time, I'd like to ask, I was off script, for a motion to offer, I have to offer the position, to offer the position
Oh,
offer it
God.
to him. At this time, I would like to make a motion to offer the position of interim superintendent of schools for the Milton Public Schools to James Jett for the 2020-21 school year. Could I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Member Eberhard.
Yes.
Member White.
Yes.
Member Rosemarin.
Yes.
Dr. Craighead.
Yes.
Dr. Donahue.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous that we can formally are in agreement to offer the position to James Jett. So, because we were able to come to consensus and to agree on a vote to formally offer the position to James Jett, I am going to make a motion at this point in time. It is now, 10 to 8. I'm going to make a motion to take a 10-minute recess to call James Jett, and I want to formally offer him the position that was unanimously voted on, and speak to him briefly, and then I'm going to ask if he would come on the meeting and then address the rest of the committee with the acceptance. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion to take a recess for 10 minutes. Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Come again? No, it's already voted. Okay, you guys ready? All right. Okay, Mike, you good? Okay, we're reconvening the Milton Public School meeting of August 26, 2020. It's 8 p.m. and I have returned after having a conversation with James Jett, offering him the position of interim superintendent of Milton Public Schools for 2020-2021. He accepted that appointment, so he is officially our new interim superintendent of schools. Congratulations, James Jett. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to you if you'd like to make a statement. Just make sure you unmute.
First of all, I think I just have to stop by saying thank you. Kind of felt like I was eavesdropping. Actually, I was on the meeting myself, and to hear you guys make a lot of wonderful comments about it, and I greatly appreciate it. And so I do have to say I accept this opportunity on behalf of all of those people that have supported me in my journey in each capacity that I filled in the Milton Public Schools. To hear you say those things, and it makes me, I'm in awe and I'm on it and committed to the task, but I didn't do it by myself. That would be a Herculean effort, and I was the beneficiary of having great people around me, from administrative assistants to custodians to food service, anybody. I was always willing to listen, to get critical feedback. And I think that's important in the leadership role because there's no one individual could do it. And I would be remiss if I didn't compliment Mary Gormley, superintendent, 46 years. My contributions pale in comparison to what she's done. And whether you agree or disagree, and I've been tuning in all summer long to these things, Mary Gormley tried to do her best and make decisions on the best interests of all the students and staff in the Milton Public Schools. And so I do have to extend a heartfelt thank you, a sincere thank you to Mary Gormley for her leadership. I thank all of the people that have been in a leadership role in my journey, from John Phelan to Mary Gormley to Anna McReynolds. I got to thank my team of Brian McEnon and Ben Kelly, all of the department heads. I don't even know what to say. I think this is a tough time, so I have mixed emotions because on one hand, I'm very excited to be considered for this position in one of the best communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but I also know that we have a lot ahead of us. This is a challenge from a pandemic. We talked about the civil and racial unrest and the equality. I'm sure that's going to be a major part of this as well. With the recent shooting of Jacob Blake. And so I'm concerned, but I'm also committed and up for the task. And so I would say to the community, for those who really believe in the Milton Public Schools, and I think there are many of you out there, I know that there's some open wounds in all of us, from the faculty and staff, and talking to them. This is not a time to be divisive. This is a time for us to come together. And so I call on people, if you're really committed, from students doing your part, if we open up in hybrid, to come in and follow the policies and procedures, to the families, whether you're remote or hybrid, you're still part of the Milton public school community, and we want to make sure that we put forward our best educational opportunities for all of our students. And then the faculty and staff. Many of you I talked to over the course of the last, well, actually all summer long, to be honest with you, and from all levels. I can't thank you enough. I've said it on many school committee meetings or the task force. This is one summer that every single faculty and staff stayed invested all summer long and stayed in tune with what was going on, and really gave some feedback, contributed in many different ways. So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and then to have the unexpected resignation of Mary Gormley on Friday, I got to tell you, I felt like I got kicked in the stomach and the wind knocked out of me. But you know what? We still got to go forward. And I think a couple of people said it before, this is a battle. And if one person steps aside or one person goes down, everybody else has to band together, and we got to move forward. And so I'm up for the task. But I do call on the entire Milton community, from parents to students to faculty, staff, to community organizations, clergy, everybody. This is a community effort, and we're in challenging times, and when challenging times come, the commitment from all. So again, once again, I just say thank you very much. It's an honor to be considered, and I look forward to working in this capacity.
Is it possible? Can I say something? Is that okay? All right, James, I just want to tell you that going down memory lane a little bit, I think if you remember, I was on the committee to select you as the principal of the middle school, and you were Mary Gormley's first appointment because she had just been named the superintendent, and she called me. I was in Dedham working, and she said to me, "We're about to make the announcement on the PA. Can you get to Pierce Middle School because I want you to be here?" And I said, "Sure." And I told my principal I wasn't feeling well, and I rushed to Pierce, and and when I heard them over the PA, I think John Phelan made the announcement, and the kids, the applause, they erupted with applause and cheers, and it was just a very exciting time to be listening in. And watching you over the years, I kind of always knew we would get to this day where you would take on this leadership role. So thank you so much for accepting this job at such a challenging time, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
That's great. And I think I was on mute, but I said so. We'll see you tomorrow, day one, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, James. Moving on, under the superintendent's report, Assistant Superintendent Spalding will step in and report out tonight on agenda number 4, please.
Thank you, Chair Varela. Again, congratulations, Mr. Jett. I do have a list for you for tomorrow morning, so I will see you in the morning. So wanted to give a quick update on some of the anti-racism initiatives. If you read the most recent blog, Milton Public Schools invited parents, guardians, and staff to apply for position on the anti-racism action team. So if you have been thinking about it or want more information, please do go to the website. We have a new section of the website highlighting the recent and ongoing work in the area of anti-racism. So please go there. The applications are due September 21st, and then we'll go through a process of establishing that team. We are very excited that the written solicitation for the equity audit is complete. I do want to thank parents Beverly Ross-Denny, as well as Erin Hardy and Winston Daly, and I'm sure many others who really helped shape that. So it is in the hands of the Chief Procurement Officer for the town, and so that will get sent out. So we're excited about that. And then finally, the job description on the new senior leadership position, Director of Educational Equity, as well as dates for the community conversations. Those will be coming out very soon. So second on our list, we would like to welcome Principal Bill Fish, principal of the Pierce Middle School. And with him, he has Brian Selig, our K-12 Director of Mathematics, as well as Kat DeRoche, our K-8 Literacy Director. So I will hand it over to Principal Fish and his team, who will talk about the pause in leveling at the Pierce Middle School.
Thank you, Dr. Spalding. Congratulations, James Jett, on your appointment. Very excited to be working with you in this capacity. Chair Varela, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and to present some more information around the decision to pause the grade 7 and grade 8 accelerated sections of English language arts and math classes at Pierce. Ideally, this update would have been provided to the committee earlier in the summer, but these are unique times that have impacted many facets of our work, timeline, and processes. So to start by giving the committee a little bit of background and context. Throughout the 2019-2020 school year, the Pierce Site Council engaged in conversations around the merit of the grade 7 and grade 8 math and ELA accelerated level courses at the middle school. And parent members of the Site Council raised questions about the process for determining student placement in these sections. And similarly, teacher members of the Site Council expressed some concerns and some lack of support for the courses, as the curriculum for these classes is effectively the same curriculum as it is for the standard level courses. So the Site Council agreed that both the value of and the need for these accelerated sections of these classes required more attention. Given the other priorities of the Site Council's work, which included securing the one-to-one computing at Pierce, revamping our master schedule, and rethinking the support structures around students transition to grade 6, the group decided to table any study or subsequent recommendations around the future of the accelerated sections of these classes until the 2020-2021 school year. However, when the school closure canceled the spring administration of the MCAS and also stalled opportunities for teachers to administer common grade level assessments, the Site Council discussed concerns about the resulting lack of data for Pierce to make fair and informed decisions about placing students into the accelerated level classes for the new school year. So the Site Council agreed that the best course of action would be to pause the accelerated sections of grade 7 and grade 8 ELA math for the new school year, and to use the coming fall and winter to collect information, solicit input, and communicate with the school community about the challenges and opportunities related to these accelerated sections. To give you a little bit of some further context around the process for determining placement in the accelerated sections, Pierce has traditionally offered one accelerated level class for English language arts and mathematics on each team for grade 7 and 8. And student placement in these classes was based on 3 variables: 2 years of MCAS achievement data, as well as performance on common grade level assessments. For example, 7th grade placement would have been determined based on students' grade 6 MCAS performance, grade 5 MCAS performance, and a series of assessments taken by all 6th graders. So in light of that, the immediate problem that we're faced with is that the school closure in the spring and the subsequent cancellation of the 2020 MCAS administration leaves us at best with 2-year-old MCAS data and an incomplete battery of common assessment data to make fair and informed decisions about which students could or should be placed at the accelerated level. The Site Council has identified through its discourse some bigger picture questions and some unresolved issues that require attention. So beyond the lack of data that I've spoken to, there are bigger questions with the accelerated classes that require our school community's attention. For example, questions like, why do we have these classes if the curriculum is effectively the same as the non-accelerated classes? Questions like, if MCAS data for our school and district raise concern about an achievement gap for our African-American students and our Hispanic students on standardized tests like the MCAS, then why are we using the MCAS as a significant driver of student placement in accelerated classes? Other questions like, why does the racial and socioeconomic makeup of students in accelerated classes not mirror that of our broader student population? And also, why does Pierce have a system for placing students in accelerated classes but Milton High School does not? So to provide a little bit more context into color into these questions that really inform the need for further study and further exploration, I'd like to introduce Kat DeRoche, our K-8 Literacy Director, and Brian Seelig, our K-12 Math Director, to provide a little bit more insight.
Thank you, Mr. Fish. I'll go ahead. I'd like to speak to a few of the questions that you raised on behalf of the Pierce Site Council in your comments as they pertain specifically to math. First, the curriculum has been effectively the same in the accelerated and non-accelerated classes, reflects the efforts of the math department at Pierce over the last few years to raise the rigor and alignment to standards for all students by implementing a new highly regarded and problem-based curriculum, and also by shifting their instructional practices to promote critical thinking skills and deep conceptual understanding, again, among all their students. Furthermore, regardless of the curriculum in place, the math standards in the middle school are dense and critical as a foundation for advanced math coursework at the high school level. So even our highest performing students need sufficient opportunities to engage in these critical topics. And then lastly, as Mr. Fish indicated, there is not the same structure in place for courses as students enter Milton High School. And that is a source of pride for me, for us as a leadership team at Milton High School, and for Mr. Jett as the new interim superintendent. Congratulations, James. Thrilled to work with you in that capacity now. And so the fact that students are an open enrollment opportunity when they enter 9th grade, I think justifies us pausing the current practice in place at Pierce for acceleration regard to math and ELA. I'll turn it over to Kat.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. I won't repeat all the things that Brian stated about providing access to students, rigorous opportunity for curriculum, regardless of which type of class they have been identified as needing or being qualified for. I think some of what he stated is universal across content areas. I think what I can speak to most recently is, as you all know, our year-long analysis of our three-pronged approach in our analysis of the curriculum. So current state of what's happening in all ELA classes, grades 4 to 8, current internal and external data of students, acknowledging the subgroup data as well, and then looking at the research and current understandings of what a 21st century literacy program entails and delivers. And I think throughout that process, the entire department, we really analyzed what we're providing to all students, regardless of which class they're in. And the thing to really remember is we're asking a lot of questions, as Principal Fish stated. I think the three of us, Mr. Fish, Brian, and myself, being new to the Pierce community, brings a new perspective. And I think we do have some questions about where this year will lead us. And what we can find out more, and just a constant reflection on how we're providing instruction to students. This will push us to really think about how we're doing this in every classroom at every period, regardless of noting accelerated or not.
Kat and Brian, thank you. So sort of just to pull it all together, many of the educators who teach the accelerated sections of grades 7 and 8 ELA and math have posed questions similar to those above that are require attention and are worth grappling with. And the Peer Site Council also sharing many of these same questions and concerns. The general sentiment among both groups was to take this pause so that we're able to take a deeper look into these classes and probably just as importantly, the structures related to placing students into them. But when we take a step back, and I appreciate one of the comments that Mr. Seelig made, is that all of our students are entitled access to rich and rigorous curriculum and instruction. And we know from research on differentiated instruction, where students are taught in heterogeneous classrooms with high quality curriculum instruction and focused attention on their unique needs, which shows broader benefits in student achievement and school satisfaction for a wide variety of learners. So with the newly adopted English language arts curriculum and the existing math curriculum, they're both robust programs that provide educators with the resources and tools to differentiate instruction and to meet the needs of a wide range of learners. And just as I close, I just want to make a few notes that while we look to pause, we will pause the accelerated level for this school year. It's important to point out that in both grades 7 and 8, our intensive study, our IS exploratory classes will still run. So those classes in grade 7, like intensive study in engineering or debate or art, as well as in grade 8, which is intensive study in math and creative writing, art and fuse, those exploratory classes they're really designed for students who have a genuine interest in pushing their thinking and pushing their learning in these areas. Those opportunities are still available to students.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent Spalding, I just wanted to reach out to members of the committee. Does anyone have any questions or queries for Mr. Fish, Seelig, or Mr. Roche? Member Eberhardt.
Thank you, Chair Varela. Thank you, Mr. Fish and the rest of the team there for the presentation and the explanation. I think that, as you pointed out, Mr. Fish, so much is happening so quickly and like at rapid fire that you can barely catch up sometimes. And so I know that the announcement probably startled parents, and I just want to share and reiterate your sentiments that you are not changing the rigor or the quality of the instruction or what's offered to students, but you're just pausing that accelerated model to really take into account what has happened during the last couple of months, what's going to happen during the next couple of months, and how you can structure all those things moving forward. I think that that's the most that parents just want to be reassured that we are committed to the high quality education for their students and rigor and opportunity. And I do think that your points about equity and leveling and acceleration are well taken, have been discussed multiple times on this committee years ago, many years ago. And I think it's a wonderful first step to making excellent education for all of our students at the Pierce. So it's unfortunate that it kind of came out in a way that was sudden and unexpected, but I appreciate updates throughout the year and how that's going, and then a more detailed, perhaps, report towards the end of the year on what you're going to plan for the future.
Thank you, Margaret. Anybody else at this time? Dr. Donahue.
Thank you for the presentation. That was very helpful. And I'll echo my colleague's comments that I think one of there are several sort of layered concerns here, and I don't envy your task in grappling with them. You have to simultaneously address the equity issue. You have to simultaneously support the educational needs of the full spectrum of our students. You have to, while doing that, permit an open forum so that parents and guardians and stakeholders who are involved and have different opinions on the matter can engage with it and not fear that they are because of their thoughts on it, they're going to be disparaged in some way or another. And you need to continue to communicate that you will support our students who are capable of doing accelerated work while simultaneously maintaining a playing field that is level enough so that when those students get to the high school, they have the option or the ability to enter the different levels of classes at the high school. And that is a tall order, and I'm sure you're up to it. But I too look forward to seeing how this progresses throughout the year and what tools and techniques you use to and balance those factors and try and achieve all those ends.
Great, thank you, Dr. Donahue. I guess I'll turn it back over. Anybody else last time? I'll turn it back over to Dr. Spalding because we have another item C under superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chair Varela. I would like to hand it over to our Administrator of Pupil Personnel Services, Susan Maselli. You have been presented with the Milton Public Schools Staff Procedural Handbook for Student Restraints. This is an update to the handbook. So if Susan Maselli could just give us a quick overview for the viewing public of this document and why we create such a document, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spalding. Thank you, Chair. Congratulations, Mr. Jett. Look forward to working with you. I also have a list for you tomorrow morning. What you have in front of you is last year when we met, we updated the policy for the district, and that's something that you had voted on previously. This is the handbook that accompanies that policy and provides some basic information to staff and administrators regarding information related to the training, administration, reporting, and self-evaluation of physical interventions for students during crisis situations. It also provides an update of the technical advisories that the Department of Ed has given us and an updated reporting form that we will use in the district. That's what you have in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions related to that handbook.
Does anyone on the committee have any queries, comments for Ms. Maselli? We good? Okay, thank you so much, Susan, for just giving that little brief overview. Then I think that we need to take a vote. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the MPS Staff Protocol Handbook for the student restraints for the 2020-21 school year. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Craighead. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Spalding.
Thank you, Chair Varela.
Next, item number 5 is the policy subcommittee report. We have a lot of stuff, important stuff to speak to tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to the chair of our policy subcommittee, Dr. Donahue.
Thank you, Chair Varela. So before we get into the policies we're voting on tonight, brief update on our anti-racism efforts and our anti-racism policy. So we have spent several weeks this summer crafting an anti-racism policy that we feel takes Milton in a good direction. We feel as though we have a solid, I would call it rough draft or first draft, but we recognize that there are some significant missing pieces in terms of producing a satisfactory, workable final product. That includes the task force that is being assembled, and that also includes our Director of Educational Equity. That also likely includes input from our educators and to an extent our student population and guardian population as well, both of whom are not, or some of those are not typically engaged over the summer months. So we continue to work on that, but until some of those pieces are in place, we find ourselves at sort of a pause in that, if you will. But I'm anxiously looking forward to the completion of the task force and for our identifying a Director of Educational Equity, so we can take the next steps in moving that policy forward. With that, you see before you the list of policies that we have been able to work on and complete over the past several weeks. So these include our face covering policy, our remote learning policy, our immunization policy, our COVID policy, and our harassment policy. I'm going to start with the face covering policy. And this evening, I'm going to request votes on these, hopefully approval. And I'm going to request that the chair, with her permission and with the superintendent or assistant superintendent's permission, invoke our expedited approval process so that where necessary, these policies can be included in the back-to-school materials and handbooks. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Assistant Superintendent. So the first one will be the face covering policy. So I recognize that individuals at home or viewing this remotely may not have the entirety of the policy in front of them. It has been distributed to various stakeholders, including members of the some of our union units, but I will read the sort of the pertinent parts so as not to drag this on too far. So in terms of mask supply, families are welcome to supply their own masks. Educators are welcome to supply their own masks. And if they do not desire or for some reason are unable to, the school district is happy to provide those masks for them. Masks for pupils must cover both the nose and the mouth, must fit snugly and comfortably along the side of the face, be secured with either ear loops or a tie behind the head, allow for breathing without restriction, and either be disposable or capable of being laundered and dried without damage to change or shape. Specific face masks are encouraged by the Milton Public Schools, and those include surgical masks like these, 2- and 3-layer cloth masks, and face shields are permitted, but they are an adjunct to the masking process. Certain face coverings are not permitted, and those include 1-layer cloth masks, 1-layer neck gaiters, and vented masks, masks with the exhalation vent on them. Further, there are some specific reasons an individual may be excused from wearing a mask as per the CDC, and those include having difficulty breathing, someone who is unconscious or incapacitated, or someone who cannot remove the mask or face covering without assistance. Exemptions to the face covering policy will be vigorously vetted by our school department physician and the nursing staff. Additionally, face masks or face coverings will not be required only in certain circumstances. During a specific mask break at a various school, or when individuals are eating and drinking. And to that latter point, we have endeavored to minimize that to the extent possible by incorporating half days into our hybrid policy, our hybrid schedule. This policy does not, it specifically excludes athletics. Athletic advice and recommendations from DESE have not been forthcoming in sufficient detail to craft a policy, but as soon as they are, we will either craft the policy or will adhere to the decision of the MIAA or DESE, whichever is determined to be the appropriate governing group. I'd like to thank the tireless work of our Health and Safety Subcommittee. In crafting this, this was no easy task, and we genuinely appreciate the input of all of those stakeholders, clinicians, non-clinicians alike, who were able to bring this policy to us and help us work to make it a workable policy. Are there any? Do my colleagues have any questions? Yes, Dr. Craig.
Okay, so I just have 2 questions. The first is under what the face masks must do or be or have. The 3rd bullet point says, or elastic in the case of gaiters, and then underneath the following face coverings are not permitted, it's the 1-layer neck gaiters. I think it's confusing to have the first parentheses up there that says or elastic in the case of gaiters. It looks like we're allowing them at one point, and then disallowing them at another point. And I think most people have read the report saying that gaiters actually might be worse than wearing nothing. So can you, are there certain kinds of gaiters that are not terrible? Is that what's being referred to in the first bullet?
Thank you, Dr. Craighead. Yes, there are some. I'm led to believe very few that are not one ply and that would technically fall under the category of a 2 or 3 layer cloth mask. So I agree it is confusing. We had similar questions for the Health and Safety Subcommittee, and I acknowledge your confusion there, but there is a small area where those Venn diagrams overlap. So it is conceivable that you could have a product that would comply with those portions of the policy.
Okay. I do think that if this is published, though, it might be relatively easy to overlook if you see the first part and not the second. But I hear your point. My other question is with surgical masks. The designation surgical mask versus the 3-ply mask that you buy that might not be marked surgical mask, but is in effect the same as a surgical mask. Is there a way to account for that? Because if somebody gets a box from Amazon and it's a mask like the one you're wearing, but it's not marked surgical mask, they might think it's not good enough or it doesn't fit these requirements. So is there a way to account for that?
Thank you, Dr. Craighead. Yes, I think there is. So the medical type masks that are widely available are meet the functional criteria of what is considered a surgical mask. So as this one of the many things that has been a problem ongoing in this process is evolving guidelines and sort of shifting definitions and terminology. So the term surgical mask has a very specific meaning in the medical community as a mask that is produced in certain locations and complies with certain sections of the FDA regulations. Almost universally, those masks are only available in hospitals, in operating rooms, or in procedure rooms. The masks, for example, like the one that I'm wearing now, are functional equivalents and meet the same standards, but are not vetted by the federal government in the same way. And the best analogy that I could think of is how is sort of the analogy between sparkling wine and champagne. That to be champagne, you must be made in France, in Champagne, I believe. Pardon my pronunciation. But functionally, there are sparkling wines produced in other parts of the world that are similar, if not identical, except to those very few who are sommeliers who would be able to tell the difference. So that's the best that I can do. I acknowledge that the terminology can be a little confusing, and I will reiterate that the kind of mask, medical looking mask that I'm wearing now is acceptable, is what we are encouraging, along with the 2- and 3-ply cloth masks that are very common, probably very similar to the one that you're wearing.
Okay, and that's actually a great explanation. I'm wondering if there's a way to make sure that's on the website, that there's some sort of asterisk that goes next to that and says sort of what you just said, which is it doesn't have to be called a surgical mask, but this is what we're looking for.
Thank you. Yes, and I think to your point, I think a frequently asked questions type summation put next to it would be very helpful for these matters.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any further questions? Member Rosemary.
Yes, thank you for your great job explaining a complicated policy. I also want to thank the Health Subcommittee of the Return to School Task Force that has been laboring over this issue for months now. And it's really quite fascinating to see how research has moved along since March, since the pandemic began in all areas related to COVID, but including around face coverings, and how that research informs the recommendations that have been made. And I think what we need to take from that is that if and when research tells us something different than we have in this policy, then we will return to this and update it based on the most recent research. And given how quickly things have moved, we have to remain nimble and flexible. I wonder with the surgical masks, and I don't know if this is more complicated or maybe just in having further explanation, just including like surgical slash medical masks. I don't know, but it's just one suggestion. But one other thing that I've learned about surgical medical masks is there was a video shared with me by one of the members of our health subcommittee, Dr. John Pincus, that showed how to test that your mask was in fact met those standards. And it involved cutting it up and looking at all 3 layers and actually burning the center layer, and that layers that didn't burn like a piece of paper would are the ones that will provide you better filtration. And it's actually kind of an interesting experiment to do. So I bought some masks from Amazon just to have them around, and cut one up and tested them, and it really was, I was pleasantly surprised to see that center layer didn't burn. So that's pretty much all I have. And I think as we talked about earlier, that we will post this policy and others that pertain to the return to school tomorrow on our the Milton Public School website, as well as the Return to School website, just so everybody has access to it wherever it's easiest to find.
Thank you. Yes, and I'd like to encourage any Milton Public School students that may be watching that to undertake scientific experiments with the express permission of their parents and/or supervision of their parents and guardians. All is well and good in the name of science, but we don't want your research to be lost. Yes, so thank you. So any other questions on this policy? Wonderful. Can I have a second, please? So I move approval of policy B.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, policy number 2, a remote learning policy. So again, this is a lengthy policy, and I'm grateful to the input of council and others who helped us craft it. I will not read it in its entirety. We have sought to create a policy that would help provide a degree of guidance and support for educators and students alike. I will, however, read a portion of the second section of it just to remind community members of our particular emphasis on protection of our educators' intellectual freedom and the privacy of the educators and the students, and remind people that, and here I'm quoting, content produced for and/or accessed through the remote learning curriculum of the Milton Public Schools is the intellectual property of the Milton Public Schools. Duplication, recording, dissemination, or unauthorized alteration of the content is strictly prohibited. The superintendent or their designee shall investigate any violations, including but not limited to unauthorized use, dissemination, and alteration, and refer the matter to law enforcement and/or disciplined parties pursuant to the results of this investigation and in accordance with the student handbook and other district discipline policies as needed. Explicit acceptance of these terms as part of the student handbook review by students and parents/guardians shall be required. Alternative arrangements shall be made for students and parents/guardians unwilling to accept these terms. So this will yet again be another component of the sign-off sheet that parents and guardians and students will get this fall with their handbooks. Are there any questions on the remote learning policy? So I will move approval of our remote learning policy, policy IHBHE. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second, Varela. Thank you very much. All in favor? So that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, next, our immunization policy. So we had some guidance from the state with regards to updating the immunizations required for attendance in public schools. And I'd like once again to thank the Health and Safety Subcommittee of the Back to School Task Force for their work on this policy. It was also recent guidance came out last week, adding the influenza vaccine to the list of vaccinations required for student attendance. So I move approval of our policy. Well, first, let me ask: are there any questions? Yes, Member White.
Can you share the thinking behind this change of the policy?
Sure. Do you mean specifically influenza or some of the other vaccinations?
Yeah, this is new, so I just thought you could maybe share a little bit about the thinking.
Sure. So for a number of these diseases, especially in the time of COVID, symptoms can and do mimic the COVID symptoms, such as influenza. You'll commonly hear symptoms of COVID refers to as flu-like symptoms for that reason. So it would behoove us to minimize the number of cases of flu in the community so that we are not excluding students or creating undue concern, first. But second, it's also been established that individuals with pre-existing medical conditions, and that includes some of the illnesses that we are capable of vaccinating against, are more susceptible to injury or death, long-term injury or death from COVID illness. So by requiring a robust immunized population, we minimize those risks. And third, there's a general public safety and public health argument to be made for ensuring robust vaccinations when and where possible, where medical and other objections do not preclude that. Is that sufficient, or?
That's fine.
Thank you. So I'll move approval of our immunization policy, policy JLCB.
Second.
I'm sorry, was that a second, Dr. Craighead?
Second, yes.
It's all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Policy JLCF, our COVID policy. So this policy specifically recognizes that this is going to be an extraordinary academic year, possibly longer. We may have a number of policies and procedures that we normally adhere to that will be either impossible or impractical to adhere to. And it permits the deviation of those policies by the superintendent or its designee with certain specific exceptions. And I will read some of those exceptions. I'll read actually the whole policy. Given the unprecedented nature of the COVID-19 pandemic, the realities of providing education may require deviation from established Milton Public School policies. Pursuant to this policy, the superintendent is generally empowered to deviate from Milton Public School policy to maintain the health and safety of the Milton Public School community while maintaining academic standards of the highest level possible. Such deviation shall be reported to the school committee as part of the ongoing feedback and communication process between the superintendent and the school committee. However, modifications of certain policies that require school committee approval related to the the educational policy, but not limited to, including the 2020-2021 school calendar, grading and retention, and local graduation requirements. So those specific areas, as well as some others that may come up, will require the specific input of the school committee to make those changes. Changes in the current COVID educational model between full in-person, hybrid, and full remote models shall be voted by the school committee as soon as practicable. This policy shall remain in effect until July 1, 2021, unless modified or rescinded by the school committee. So this generally empowers the superintendent to deviate from some of our policies, as I said, with some specific exemptions. It permits the nimble, that's the word, change from one education model to another, i.e. on a Friday, but require, if the pandemic realities necessitate it, but it requires a vote of the school committee to see that change continue to be implemented. And as we all know, the challenges of the open meeting law sometimes are not working in our favor. So we would want to see the superintendent empowered to make a rapid decision if they need to. But we feel as though that the burden of that decision should also rest on us, as did the initial decision. So there you have it. Are there any questions that my colleagues have? No. Okay, wonderful. So with that, I'm going to move approval of policy JLCF, our COVID pandemic policy. I have a second.
I'll second.
Second, Varela. Thank you very much. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Policy ACAB, our harassment policy. This was provided to us by council last week, and this is a new policy that they have recommended based on updated legal advice from updated federal guidance on Title IX and how to deal with the various forms of harassment and the burdens thereof. While people are reading this, I'll note that we do have a sexual harassment policy as well as some other harassment policies, but it was felt by legal that our district as well as others needed this specific one to remain in compliance with the updated Title IX guidance. Are there any questions? Thank you. I'll move approval of policy ACAB. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chair Varela. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the members of my subcommittee, Chair Varela, Member Eberhardt. You have helped us do a tremendous amount of work in a short period of time, and I'm indebted to you.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your leadership on this policies. Always important, but it's never been more important than in these times. So thank you, Dr. Donahue, for that. Okay, so we have gone through chairs, superintendent, and policy. We are going to move to citizen speak. It's 8:50 right now. Again, we are doing 30 minutes, so we'll be stopping at 9:20. And so, Dr. Spalding, I'm going to ask that you time the speakers as you have been doing. And when the bell goes off, I'm going to give a high sign just to have that person wrap it up. And again, I'm stopping exactly at 30 minutes, as I said at the top of the meeting. And if anyone did not get a chance to speak, we encourage you to then send your statement, comment to us via email. We do read everything. And before we start, I again want to reiterate that I ask that the speakers, when they address the committee and the administrators, that they speak with respect and kindness in their tone, because I think it'll just make for a nicer evening for all of us as we move forward in listening. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Dr. Glenn Pavlicek, who's running the video part of the meeting, to promote the first person for Citizen Speak.
So the first speaker is Jay Fundling.
Also, I'm sorry, before you speak, please state your name and your street address for the minutes that are being taken for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jay Fundling. I live at 39 Sias Lane. I'm a parent of rising 7th and 5th graders, and I'm here to address the decision to cease offering advanced math and English at Pierce. Our family is strong supporters of public education, and we feel strongly that the education we get at Milton Public School is as good as anyone can get at a private school. But this decision makes us question the commitment to challenging academics at Pierce. We also worry if rigorous academics will be available when our daughters reach high school. We worry that AP classes may be next on the chopping block. I don't want to think that the only way we can get a rigorous education for our daughters is by going to private school. We were shocked to hear this decision. We understand remote schooling will create issues this year, but this decision was framed as being unrelated to remote schooling and permanent. The 6th grade math class was not challenging to my daughter and her friends, even before they were sent home. Pierce asserts the curriculum gives every child what they need, but I can assure you that is not correct. You can't expect one teacher to simultaneously address a wide range of needs. 6th grade wasn't challenging, and now we don't expect 7th or 8th grade to be either. We had been looking forward to this as one high point of an otherwise difficult 7th grade coming up. But now we and other parents are looking to supplement Pierce with private online math classes. I understand there are issues using MCAS as a determinant for these classes, especially this year. I wholeheartedly agree something else should be used. MCAS is not a good metric for this. But you can modify the program without removing it entirely. I hope the school committee will reverse this policy and put excellence back in Pierce academics. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Next is Lizzie Carroll.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Just name and street address.
Hi there. My name is Dr. Elizabeth or Lizzie Carroll. I live at 37 Randolph Ave. I'm a town meeting member in Precinct 3 and most importantly, a parent of a rising 1st grader at Tucker School and another future Milton Public Schools student who's 3. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, and thank you all for your leadership and commitment to our educators, families, and children, especially during these extremely challenging times. I have to say I'm very pleased by your appointment of Mr. Jett as the interim superintendent and thank him for stepping up in this critical capacity for our community. I'm totally confident that he is the right person to lead Milton Public Schools for this coming year. I want to share 3 suggestions for the upcoming search for a permanent superintendent. First, the need for an open, transparent, community-driven process with a screening committee that proportionately reflects the rich diversity of Milton Public Schools, including representatives of the Milton Anti-Racism Coalition and the soon-to-be formed Milton Anti-Racism Action Team that will be coming together soon. Second, the selection of a search firm that has a proven track record of recruiting and delivering a diverse pool of highly qualified candidates, which may well include Mr. Jett as a strong candidate in that pool. In the interest of identifying the best possible candidate for our permanent superintendent, we must conduct a robust national search. Third, an explicit job description that centers equity-focused leadership aligned with Milton Public Schools' recently stated commitment to anti-racism, and that will also respond to the findings of the upcoming equity audit in concrete ways. This is also going to need an opportunities for public input and feedback on both the posting and the job description. I look forward to hearing more details from Member Eberhardt and others of you at future school committee meetings about how the search process will address these 3 key elements and seize this opportunity to accelerate Milton's progress toward becoming the school district of excellence with equity that we want and need to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Next will be Regine Jean-Charles.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Regine Jean-Charles. I live at 70 Sumner Street. That's Farah, Adjoa, Heureuse Jean-Charles Asari, rising first grader who wants to be a part of the call. I'm just going to say that on behalf of the Milton Anti-Racist Coalition, we are very pleased that the school committee was able to swiftly identify an interim superintendent. And I would echo everything that my friend Lizzie Carroll just said with regards to the robust national search that must take place to identify the superintendent, the permanent superintendent after this. But for now, we're looking forward to working with James Jett to implement the tenets of the MARC platform. We had meetings that were scheduled with Mary, but that were canceled. And so, James, we have a list for you as well. And we are coming, you'll have an email in your inbox tomorrow morning from us to follow up on some of those items. So we look forward to working with you, and thank you very much to everyone and to the school committee.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
We have no more raised hands.
Really? Okay. I'm just going once, going twice. Okay. All right then. Next we have approval of minutes.
Got one more raised hand.
Oh, okay.
Joy Garmes.
Okay. See you, Joy.
Hi there.
Yep. Okay. Hi there.
Hi there. Joy Garmesi at 47 Harlan Street. Just a quick comment. I wasn't going to speak because I wanted to give others opportunity, but I want to thank you for the thoughtful appointment of James Jett. And I think that it's important for us who have been speaking a lot and asking a lot for this kind of careful consideration, who have taken up a lot of time, important time in school committee meetings, to also say thank you for that, the work that you've done and the thought you put into that decision. So, and the ongoing consideration to the matters that the MARC is putting forward, and to this very difficult year that we're embarking on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We also have Anna Frega.
Okay. Oh, you have to unmute, Anna. I can see you, but I think you might. There we go.
Sorry. I also want to thank you for the same thing, and I didn't mean to speak. I asked it in the Q&A, but I don't know if it shows up. You might not have an answer right now, but as the mother of 2 high schoolers, I'm just hoping that there will be something soon addressing who will be the principal of Milton High School. That's really it. But also thank you very much for swiftly going to Mr. Jett for interim superintendent. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Dr. Pavlicek?
Emily Speck.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Emily Speck. I live at 84 Beacon Street Circle. I want to thank the committee and the task force for all their hard work as we work on reopening schools, and to thank the committee for swiftly getting some leadership in place in the void of Mary's resignation. And although I know Jay and really respect him as a fellow parent, I want to offer a different opinion on the plan for the middle school's reassessment of their advanced work classes. I think the coordinators for math and ELA spoke eloquently to the ways in which they have rigorous curriculum and standards that are in place that meet the needs of all students. And I think there's an outdated viewpoint that the only way to have rigorous and strong curriculum is through leveled classes. And so I hope that we can use this as an opportunity to show ways in which all students can get an ability to advance their curriculum and advance their understanding of deep concepts without having to split them up artificially in ways that often don't actually reflect their academic ability or their IEQ, but really represent other things about their family life or socioeconomics or other background factors that aren't related to what they're capable of. So I'm really looking forward to the middle school exploring this option and creating some great opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Any other speakers?
Now we are.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. So we're going to move on to approval of minutes. We have those in our folder.
Maureen sent them to us.
Oh, she sent them. She
Sent them to us a couple of days ago. I just pulled them up on the screen again.
Oh, that's right. I had looked at them, but
Yeah.
I never know what's it when we come and talk. What's
She sent them on August 25th.
Okay. Do you have the dates? So
It's the meetings from, it just says July 29th is the only one that I see here.
Okay. Can we promote Maureen Kennedy, who is our recording secretary for the school committee meetings? Is just the June 29th the only one?
July 29th.
July 29th, rather, Maureen, that we have to approve in regular school committee, not executive session.
Right. Pretty sure that is it. I didn't see any others.
Okay. There's Maureen. I can see her.
Put in Maureen in case she wants to answer that.
Can you just confirm that, Maureen? I see you, but I don't see it on the speaker. And then now you're mute, unmute.
August 25th.
Right here. August 25th.
Hi, sorry. Yes, it's the only meeting, the 29th.
The 29th. Okay, super. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 29th school committee meeting. Can I have a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Oh, are you abstaining? Okay, I'm sorry. So it's five approvals and 1 abstain. Okay, so, oh, sorry, no, I lost the regular agenda. Here we go. Okay, so next meeting agenda items. So we next meet on September 9th. I'm assuming that we're going to have, we'll have a finance update by then. We will have strategic plan, Ada. Strategic plan update advisor. Would we put on policy, Dr. Donahue? Do you think? Yeah, we'll have policy. And I think that we will also have approval of all other MPS student and staff handbooks on that. And lastly, we'll also have another update on our anti-racist initiatives.
Chair Varela,
Yeah.
will interim superintendent James Jett maybe provide updates for parents about the high school? I don't know that time frame as the superintendent. That will be his responsibility to
Yes, it will.
appoint and an acting principal or interim or however that works out.
Yep.
But I don't know if that'll be too. It probably won't be too soon.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely have interim superintendent Jett report out on that.
Is it okay with the committee and yourself if I do more research with MASC and provide an update perhaps about the search toward, and then
That
take
would be
in
great.
information from the community and things like that?
Yep,
Okay,
that's
thank
great.
you. Okay.
So we're chock full of stuff. All right, then I'm going to make a motion to move into executive session at this time to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation with the Milton Educators Association, Units A, B, and D, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. And the chair so declares that. Secondly, to conduct strategy sessions and preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, specifically Town of Milton Consolidated Facilities Director and the Interim Superintendent of Schools. And lastly, we have approval of minutes for executive sessions. So can I have a second to move into executive session? Second by Dr. Craighead. Roll call vote. Member White?
Yep.
Dr. Craighead? Dr. Donahue?
Yes.
Yes. I was going to say it. Assistant Superintendent Spalding. Member Everhart?
Yes.
Member Rosemarin?
Yes.
And Member Varela? Yes. Okay, that concludes the meeting for August 26, 2020. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair
Good night.
Varela, for